Hello and welcome to this episode of Hello, welcome to this episode of Hello, welcome to this episode of Pandavision. We're not bingers assembling. We are Pandavision. We are pandas who have visions. This is Pandavision, and today we're talking about The Witcher. Folks,
what is going on?
What are you doing?
I'm doing the intro.
Okay.
This is Pandavision. Right?
I didn't realize you were doing a thing. I didn't realize this was a bit.
I was okay.
Because it seems like legit confusion. So
I mean, that's also possible. And hey, now we have outtakes. Anyway, folks, I'm Matthew. The voices you're hearing are Ashley Coffin and Paul Hoppe. We're here today to continue our coverage of Season 1 of The Witcher. As we're recording this, we are about 9 days away from Season 2 launching. Hopefully this will come out probably like a day or two before it goes live. And this episode is to help you either if you've seen the show and just don't want to watch it all again but want to get caught up. If you didn't see it but are kind of curious for Season 2, you want to get a podcast in instead of having to watch it all again, we're here for you. Pandavision is the show where we talk about TV shows that don't fit into larger universes, but are definitely within the Pandaverse of great content with the kind of geekiness that we love. So we're going to have all of that right after this commercial break. We have no control over. Welcome back. I'm Matthew, your host. I'm joined as always, this is the second episode, for The Witcher with Ashley Coffin and Paul Hoppe. How you folks doing today?
Great. How are you? A little tired, but great.
mediocre.
Yeah.
I'm icing myself down with like frozen things from my freezer, like a Clint Barton.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Ash, I don't know how many of the first response podcasts you've been doing on the MCU cast. I've been doing them for Hawkeye recently, so I was up till 4 a.m. this morning recording on Hawkeye and then getting back up to record with Paul on some things and now this. And yeah, it's a grind. I've forgotten about those super late night podcasts.
No, as a queen, when I'm on them, I make them do 3 casts about it. You can have your 20-minute nighttime one, but then we'll talk about it around 6. Like
there
with
you go. I like it.
I don't get up that late for anything.
That's fair.
West Coast.
So it's been a couple of weeks since we talked about this, but I think we're super excited. And the way it wound up breaking down is last episode, we mostly talked about kind of the overall world building, the different factions, the different politics and dynamics like that. Today, I think we're mostly going to focus on the characters themselves. And I think with many of the shows, especially for the three of us, the characters is what we most focus on. This one especially is really interesting character studies. And let's start with our hero themselves, The Witcher.
Geralt.
Yeah,
Geralt. Oh my.
Geralt of Rivia.
It's not Geralt?
There's so much content.
Geralt?
I thought it was Geralt. It's Geralt?
Geralt.
I thought it was
Geralt of
Geralt.
Rivia.
Oh my
Geralt?
God. So somebody needs to go listen to it now because we can't do this.
Look, I am world renowned for getting these pronunciations wrong, so just everyone will blame me. But yeah, so what do we think of our main character, The Witcher?
So it's so funny that they're trying to describe this character as someone who's not supposed to have any or feelings, or a witcher. Like they don't have feelings, they don't care about anything, when there's no other character I've seen in like any other show who has such a hero complex as Gerard does. He has to save the princess, and because he didn't save her in the beginning, now everybody's the princess.
I definitely at first was confused about that until I realized what I think they're doing there is so much of the story is about how people don't understand these creatures they call monsters, and witchers are very much one of them. And kind of what I was getting at there, what I thought they were getting at was that, of course, witchers do feel emotions. It's just that's one of these myths that's grown up around people like, oh yeah, those creatures, like they always, we've had so much mythology about what creatures are. I think that's supposed to be one more of them.
Yeah, he says that so much. He goes,
yeah.
I'm pretty sure he says that. But yeah, I think it's funny.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I find him an enjoyable character. I think the kind of, anti-hero who ends up wanting to do good, sort of, and sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. I think, some of the things they did in the very beginning to set that up, I wasn't crazy about, but I think as the series goes on, I do... it's the kind of character I like a lot of the time, and this series, I think in episode 1 of our coverage, or part 1, I was pretty negative a lot of the time. I'd say the reason that overall I mostly enjoyed the series was the characters. You know, I find Geralt like a compelling character, and Yennefer as well. And, you know, it's just like they're characters I enjoy spending time with. And as a result, it's like, you know, there will be story beats that I'm like, but like either you want to spend time with people or you don't, you know?
Yeah.
It's like he doesn't seem like someone who really wants to spend time with other people very much himself. But maybe that's part of the reason I relate to him a little. I don't know.
I see that.
You might have just a tad bit of a misanthropic aspect to your personality, just a skosh,
just a little bit. But like, also, I care about people. You know, it's this tension.
In a lot of ways, it's kind of funny timing because Paul, you and I just got through recording episodes about Cowboy Bebop over for the Superhero Ethics podcast, and I feel like Geralt, the Witcher, would fit very well into their kind of dynamic. In terms, we talked a lot about how Spike and Jet are like, they're not heroes, they're not even really anti-heroes. They're not trying to be on that kind of a moral spectrum.
Yeah,
they're just people living in a society where being morally pure and perfect and good is pretty much a recipe for disaster. Trying to just get by, doing the best they can, cutting corners when they need to, hurting some others sometimes they don't want to, and The Witcher to me feels very much of the same way, and that like he's created in this way that's not his choice. He is hated by everyone. He has to do this very unpleasant stuff, and in doing so, he's trying to kind of do the best he can, but also is willing to, you know, hurt the people who get in his way, even if they're not necessarily like the evil of evil.
For sure. I mean, he's kind of like a bounty hunter too, right? Like, except he kills them usually, but not always, and, you know, decides when or when not to metaphorically pull the trigger, I guess. I see that parallel a lot, and I enjoy it. And, you know, and another thing that I enjoy about the series is the style, you know, and like, he looks cool. A lot of the characters look cool.
Cool.
He looks like a medieval Vicious.
Yeah, I think it's fair.
You know, one who hadn't discovered crypto yet. I mean, meth. I mean,
Crystal.
Yeah, I know there's folks who think Henry Cavill looks much better when he's like super cleaned up and pretty boy for Superman. My thirst for Cavill is very much about the Witcher. I love him dark and gritty.
Glow up and gross down, or whatever. Yeah, he looks good both ways. I'll take it.
Fair.
I think the episode I really like the most with his character development is the one with the princess werewolf. What the hell were those things called? I thought it was a werewolf. I don't know what they were. It wasn't a werewolf.
The Striga?
The
Striga. I love that because you could see how much killing that character in the first episode. She was a princess too, right?
Yeah.
How much like that affected him, that he didn't, you know, just kill this monster. Like, he got very involved to try to help this, you know, princess. And I don't know, that's where you start to kind of see like the character turn where he's like, you know, really starting to now get more involved in everybody's stuff. Well, the whole time he's just like, I don't want to get involved. I was like, well, stop getting involved then, Geralt.
Yeah, I think I really love that episode too. And for what you're talking about, I think one of the real themes of this is the sort of like, who do we call a monster? What do we label a monster? And then also like, who creates them?
Right.
You know, I'm reminded of kind of the meme of like, you know, the first level of understanding is thinking that like the monster is Frankenstein, you know, and then the second level of understanding is realizing that like the book is about Dr. Frankenstein who creates the monster. But the third level is understanding that Dr. Frankenstein is the monster for creating this thing. You know, and I feel like that was very much the vibe I get with him, especially in that episode where it's this Styga is a young girl who's been cursed into this sort of creature that just wants to hunt and kill and do damage. But instead of just coming in to kill it, he becomes focused on this kind of mystery of like, why was she cursed? Who did this? How did it happen? And how do we undo it?
He has like a code that is loosely followed.
Yeah. This was the episode that kind of sold me on the show, I guess. Like, the first episode I liked and then hated, and then the second episode I was like, it felt like a little kind of weird and cheesy, and then the third episode I was like, all right, I'll watch this show, Before that, it was kind of just like inertia. I was like watching the next episode, and then here I was like, okay, I like this. Also, the fourth level of understanding of Frankenstein is understanding that the real monster is the society that created Dr. Frankenstein.
Yes, and the society therefore hunts the monster.
Exactly.
And that's actually kind of a really great point, because I think we only get a little bit of this, but I think one of the things that I think is very much a part of the Witcher's character that I hope we see more of in season 2 is this idea that he's not just like a creature that lives out in the wilds that is considered monstrous, but actually has a lot of like goodness to him. As I understand it, like Witchers were created by this society to do the dirty work of dealing with these things out in that they think of as like monsters. And to me, it's very much you're talking about the society. It's like the society doesn't want to have to do the dirty work, so they create these creatures to fight the monsters, but then they also vilify them, kind of like it's that like we need you, but we also hate you because you do the things we don't want to do.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was mostly making a joke, but also being completely serious, and I'm glad that you managed to find more meaning in it than I intended. I really like that.
That's a good point.
There is an anime on Netflix that's, I guess, light spoilers. It's sort of a prequel to the series. I mean, it takes place before the series and talks about a little bit sort of where the monsters come from and stuff like that.
Nice.
And kind of how society views Witchers and maybe how they came to view them more the way they do here, which is kind of like, it feels like there aren't a lot of them, right? And that they're sort of vilified, but also relied upon. It reminds me a little bit of sort of how people view things like the military in some ways, and then don't really take care of veterans when they come home, and wanting people to like go off and do things that they think should be done, which we can talk about whether or not we think those are good ideas, but like then as a society don't really say things like, oh, thank you for your service, blah blah blah, but it's like, yeah, but what are you actually doing to make people's lives better? What are you doing to help people reacclimate themselves? So like not going off and being in horrible situations. And here it feels like for Geralt, they're doing nothing, right? They're just like, here's some gold, go away now, thanks.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Yeah. Well, and we do get one of the episodes I didn't really quite understand what was going on. I'm curious your thoughts on, but in one of the last episodes, we get a lot of flashbacks that I think are showing us how Geralt was created as a Witcher.
Yeah.
That his mother kind of sold him, and I think very much meaning to be a parallel with Yennefer.
Mm-hmm.
What was going on there? What do you think? What is it we learned about him at the end of the season?
That his mother sold him.
Yeah,
and basically
that he had a
similar
shitty
story.
childhood.
Right, exactly. I kind of feel like that whole thing was like a little hazy, right? It was like in a sort of a fever dream while he was dying but not dying, and it was an interesting choice to be like, yeah, this is the end of this season, and we're going to take our main character, our, A1 main character, basically. Because I think Yennefer was very much like an A2 main character, right? Like, I don't feel like she was super secondary. Like, she was just like, it is called The Witcher, so there is one title character, but I feel like she had a similar level of importance, pretty much. And to basically just take him out of action and be like, yeah, we'll talk a little about his backstory, which, hopefully in season 2, they'll maybe elaborate on that a little bit, maybe show a little bit like, what it was like actually training to be a Witcher, because they allude to it, but they don't show it much.
I felt like that was so par for the course for this show, because until the very last episode, I had no idea what was going on timeline-wise.
Oh, well, there's that.
There's so much. Like, I remember there's this one picture of, like, Yennefer and Geralt, like, meeting up together, and I swear there was this one that they showed, like, she was like, you left me, he left her, but I don't remember seeing one of them. Did we just, like, pass over them seeing, like, their meetup when he left her in some, I don't know, I didn't see it, but I was like, I never have any idea where we are timeline wise or what's going on, so I'm just gonna keep watching.
No, and what you brought up is that we'll get into Yennefer's character directly, but like obviously a huge part of Geralt's character is his connection to her and his almost kind of obsession with her. And this is where it felt to me like there was a scene we needed because we see Geralt and Yennefer meet and have this like they're kind of battling over the healing and who's going to get to have the wishes from the djinn and they have sex and they have this real connection, but then they also kind of like betray each other, it seems, or they turn on each other. And then the next time they meet up, the impression I'm given, like at first I feel like this is the next time they've seen each other since then. But
not.
Then it kind of feels like off screen we've had a number of times where they met up, they fought, then they fell into bed again, then they in that cycle
leaves.
of and I wish I'd seen more of that because I felt I was like I don't if nothing else because he seems so obsessed with her in a way that I was like I don't feel like you've earned this with what you've shown me,
right?
So I'm frustrated by this.
Yeah, it's a little confusing.
Yeah, for sure. It felt like it was either the timeline's just all jacked up. I mean, and I think it's somewhat deliberate, but like I don't totally understand why.
Right.
You know, and it's this sort of like taking a bunch of short stories and then chopping them up and layering them on top of each other, kind of. And honestly, that aspect of the show really didn't work for me. When I realized that that's what they were doing, I had a tiny moment of feeling clever. And then I was like, or do I feel stupid because I didn't realize it until then? And I was like, wait, but why are you doing this? You know, like what's the point of this, sort of non-linear, you've got all these different tracks it definitely did feel like, it was a little bit like, oh, you again, but on the other hand, we didn't have anything to really give us a big sensation of the passage of time. And, season 1 takes place over decades. Yeah. Right? Like,
yeah, they're 40 years or something.
Yeah.
And they don't really tell you.
Yeah. And I think this is where, like, I think I actually liked the non-linear storytelling a lot more than both of you. Okay. And it worked for me, especially, and I felt like it was one of those things like Memento or something. We're going back and watching it again. I really enjoyed it.
Oh, okay.
But to me, I think the Yennefer Geralt thing, especially, like, if they'd given us a scene of like one more of those like times where one of them left, even have been totally out of order, but we just never got it at all.
Yeah.
Right.
The other thing I'll say though, maybe this is getting us to a different character, but we're bouncing around. It's fine. I think one of the reasons why it didn't work is because you had like Geralt's timeline, which is really interesting, Yennefer's, which is really interesting. I don't care about Cirilla. Nothing has happened to make me find Cirilla a compelling or interesting character. And her timeline was the one that was the most linear. And I feel like, I don't know for you, that was to me my biggest problem was that the timeline that I'm supposed to be grounded in was the one where I'm most like, I don't care.
I didn't care at all. Well, my second rewatch, I actually fast forward some of her scenes. I was like, don't care. Get me back to the story.
Yeah.
I remembered what happened.
I was trying to, like, when we were, knowing that, like, we were going to talk about the characters, I was like, just like kind of trying to remember her character. And I was like, I guess at the end when she does whatever she does, right?
Yeah, that's when it gets interesting.
Right. Then it's like all of a sudden she becomes a character who like, okay, maybe has some complexity, maybe has some agency, right? But up until then, it's just like this very slowly unfolding story of Nilfgaard attacking
Cirilla.
Sintra, yeah. And like, okay, but like it doesn't feel like there's a really compelling like personal narrative there with any of the characters, right? So I could have used that not being spread out across all the episodes little bit by bit and maybe try to have something that's more, maybe just make that episode 7, and instead of having that just be like gradually dripped throughout the series, just be like, all right, this is going to happen when it happens and you'll see it and then everything will kind of make more sense. I don't know. Yeah. I felt like introducing that in the beginning was like, it's like, and their fates are intertwined and then we're going to learn the backstory. And it's like, just give me the story. Like,
story. I agree.
I think the other thing for me about Cirilla is I blame Joss Whedon for this, but he's by no means the only person who has done this trope. But it's very much kind of the River Song trope of the troubled young girl who doesn't really understand herself and needs to be taken care of, but also is the most powerful person that's ever been powerful. And like, I'm just so bored of that trope.
Right.
That like her being like, I don't understand, but if I get mad, I'll yell and destroy everything around me.
Yeah.
Like,
I'd love that power.
I blame him for it
I mean,
because he's like done it the best.
Yeah. That's also true.
And thus it became popular, and then people did it not the best.
Yeah.
So.
And like, I had problems with the way he did it, but he did it in ways that were like, he did it. We're done.
Yeah.
Move on. Give me something else.
Right.
Going back to Geralt, though, there's one other part of his character I want to kind of get your sense on, because he, like, destiny and, like, law of surprise, and your fates are intertwined. These are obviously very important parts of the world that we're in. Geralt has this interesting perspective where he doesn't believe in that, but he also thinks he has to honor a promise. Mm-hmm. What's going on with that for him? Is it just that he doesn't believe in the fate thing, but he does have like kind of a code, as you were saying, Ashley?
Yeah.
Like,
which is just that stuff's annoying a little bit to me. The whole the promise. What was that called? Did we talk about that last time? Or is that what we're at? Like the promise.
Which one's
the whatever he does that now he has a child
right,
of promise.
The law of surprise.
Oh Jesus, yeah, the law of surprise.
Which when I hear that, I just think of like Steve Carell, like the element of surprise, like where he throws the phone and then it doesn't.
And it's just with no explanation. I was like, yes, absolutely. You have to. The law of surprise is like the number one law in this entire world, and everybody has to understand it and accept it. And I'm like, hand in the back.
Yeah. Like, I think the law of surprise is kind of a cool idea in a world where so much is uncertain. And if it just stays as like, it's just a human like understanding of a rule and like, wow, fate kind of had an idea for you. But this idea of like the law of surprise declared that you and this child are interwoven, and so 18 years later, you're still supposed. I was just like,
Yeah, I was like, is he supposed to marry her? That would have made more sense. Instead, no, you're her father now, but what if her father hadn't died? It was all very confusing.
Yeah, I think as like this ridiculous human construction that we can look at and kind of laugh at, maybe it's an interesting aspect of a world. As some sort of like actual legitimate sort of magic-y thing, it's like, no thanks.
Yeah.
Pass.
And I think what they're going for, especially since we've seen, and I know I love this, you all are not so much, but especially since we've seen that so much of the things that the characters in the world believe are magic and fate and destiny are just the wizards like pulling strings and being manipulative bastards. I'm hoping that that's what we're also getting, like that his attitude of like, look, I'm connected to this girl, she's in trouble, I'll help, but like law of surprise can go, walk on the plank. Like, I'll be here for that. If we do get more of like, I mean, if the law of surprise, if there is this thing of like their characters are intertwined, like things like that always take away agency. I'm not here for that.
Like what I want to happen with all that, like I have but I know it's probably not going to because it's too like tied up with the bow. But we'll get into that when we talk about Yennefer. But I know I have theories for what I want to happen, and it's definitely not going to happen.
Yeah, and I think the last thing about Geralt I want to talk about is his relationship with Jaskier. So, and we can talk about that when we get to Jaskier. So why don't we actually go into Yennefer? Unless, Paul, do you have one last thing you want to bring up?
No. I mean, basically just like he's got this sort of sense of honor that's kind of like whatever it is, it's kind of unclear, Right. Which I think the notion of honor often is.
Yeah. He's very Jon Snow about everything.
Right. And it's like,
I must.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I think there is I like it in that it's clear that he feels like that the laws of honor that most of the world go by are hypocritical nonsense, and he doesn't want to fall into that. But yeah, what it actually is, we don't know.
Yeah.
Yennefer. So
I love her.
Ashley, tell me what you love about Yennefer.
I just, the way her, it started out like she's already, it's kind of like when you have the half elves and the half humans thing, it kind of reminded me of the same thing as almost being like born out of wedlock, like as a bastard child, but imagine having like a curse upon you for it. Cause like, that's what they were saying, right? Human and elf children were cursed with twisted spines.
Right, she's like quarter elf or something.
And for
Yeah.
those who either haven't seen the show or forgotten because it's been a while, give us just a quick 30 seconds of like who is Yennefer?
Yennefer is a half elf, half person. I guess she was adopted. I don't know how to do this in 30 seconds. Yeah. But before she was with the witches, she was like a housemaid. And she showed that guy. What was her boyfriend's name? I can't do this. You do it.
Okay, so basically Yennefer was a very stunted. She had like I think what we would call today a humpback, but she apparently had some like magical affinity. The woman who runs the magic school that we talked about last time kind of came along, found her, purchased her from her family, who were very happy to sell her. And then she learned magic, and she kind of goes through this journey where she is kind of sneaking off to meet this guy from another school. It's kind of like a, Hogwarts, but boys Hogwarts and girls Hogwarts, and they meet up and have sex. And then she, politics. She is supposed to be sent down to one particular kingdom. She doesn't want to be in parts because I think she's actually a quarter elvish, but like that gets revealed and that's not good for her. And so she winds up like kind of setting her own path by kind of seducing the person who she wants to be working with instead. She gets very bored there, and then she kind of goes off and has her own sort of like adventures as a witch for most of the rest of the season. And she's kind of doing her own thing. She wound up at one point. She uses magic she goes through this magic ritual to basically like make herself very beautiful in a way that I have massive objections to for the ableism that we'll get to. But part of it's also really original idea here. She has to give up her reproductive possibilities in order to have beauty and power.
Is that a common trope in fiction?
No,
Yeah.
I've never heard of that before.
Speaking of Joss Whedon.
Yeah. And then later on, she decides she wants a child, and so she's trying to get a child. But she basically kind of like trying to live this life outside of all of the kind of like magical institution, the brotherhood nonsense, and then winds up getting tied back up with Geralt a couple times, and then being a big part of this big final battle against the Nilfgaardian army. So yeah, that's kind of her quick character summary.
Yeah.
Take it away,
They
Ashley.
make it seem like she's more powerful than all the rest of them, which is, I think, when they found out that she was half elf, that's why they kicked her out. Actually, they told her she wasn't allowed to go to any houses. And then that's when she went and got herself hottified, and then went to the ball, and then it was up to that king,
Right.
and the girl who was supposed to go with that king ends up being so upset about Yennefer taking her place, she goes to work for Nilfgaard, which becomes a problem later.
Yeah, I think Yennefer was supposed to be sent to Nilfgaard. There was an idea that she could keep the king's like religious.
Is that what it was?
Yeah, because they basically become like fundamentalists, and I think the idea was that Yennefer could have kept him in control. But yeah, it wasn't what she wanted to do.
Yeah. And I like that she does what she like, and the fact that it's not even that I think she wants a child; it's the fact that they're telling her that she can't.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I find the character interesting. I enjoyed the character throughout. I didn't enjoy all of her story, as it felt like it unwound in this very gradual being in, she's this character who really lacked agency in the beginning, right? I mean, she's literally sold by her mom or guardian or what, I don't know whether they're related, but, and then, in the Magic Academy, she doesn't have agency there really. The whole thing about, there's the whole tropishness of the, you have to sacrifice your reproductive rights if you want to be a hottie or whatever, which, and have whatever power. Like that's, what it is. But there is agency in that. Like she made that choice. Mm-hmm. Right. And I think I like that. And then that she then left what they were doing and then came back when she decided she wanted to be involved with whatever it was. So I really appreciate the character's journey from kind of total lack of agency to very high level of agency. Not every step on the journey was like super enjoyable for me, but as she becomes more empowered, basically, I enjoy it more. And then at the end, she's like, I'm going to burn
Dark Phoenix.
Yeah. She basically goes Dark Phoenix and burns everything down.
I like how shitty she is towards the magic a lot, though. It's like she almost doesn't like. She's like, when people are like, wow, that's amazing, she's like, it's only magic. Or,
Right.
you know, the fact when they found out from the dragon that Geralt had wished for her and him to always be intertwined. And that was like a hard no for her because she was like,
Right.
oh, well, it's fake. It's all fake.
Yeah,
Yeah. I'm like,
yeah.
isn't this what, like, is everything that happened to you fake? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I all of that about her character I really do love, and I it's never explicitly stated as much as maybe I would have wanted, but I think they do a good job of indicating that part of the idea here is that like she had agency, but as a child she had been taught, she was raised in this school since she was very young, taught all this very kind of like magical supremacy, like, you are better, like I'm going to turn other people into eels because they are not as good at magic as you are. And so I feel like that there's some degree of, she has the agency when she makes the decision to become like, uber mage and uber hot and all that. I'm going to get in the disability part in a second. But that there's a sort of sense of like she was doing what she had been taught was supposed to be what she wanted, and that to me that's the one way I'm able to kind of be okay with this whole like, well, no, now I do want to have a child, or now I'm not so into magic as I thought, is this kind of this idea of like, as the person you've been taught all your life, like work hard, you can become a great athlete, and then later you're like, but do I want this? Like, is this really what I want? And I really like that part of her story.
I will add that I don't think it was at a very young age that she went to the magic school. I think
That's true. Yeah, she's like
And I
a
thought,
teenager.
Is she? I thought she was like a young adult already. Do they say
right.
or?
They don't do a good job with time passing, but I think they wanted to just make that actress look younger. Because if you see, here we go with the hair. When they find her hair is like neck length, and then when she's training, it's a little bit more like under her collarbone.
So time has passed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember, if I remember correctly, she did something that met her up with Harry Potter boyfriend before the lady found her. So she was already kind of like putting that magic out into the world as like a beacon to be found, and that's how whatever her name is from Downton Abbey kept finding all these girls as they were doing something.
Oh, right.
Magical.
Yeah, they were like talking parcel tongue or something to snakes, or
Yeah, it was something.
Yeah. That's right. I think she uses her portal to escape from.
Those people were beating her up.
Yeah,
that's right.
And so here, all right, let me talk about kind of the main problem I have with her character. And again, it's just because it's like the idea of a person who is disabled or disfigured or like, looks in a way that people are teasing her and attacking her all the time, and so she doesn't want to, or they don't want to, or he doesn't want to. That's a perfectly legitimate story and one that makes a lot of sense. It's that it has become such a trope, and that we get so few stories about characters who are disabled, who are just okay with that. And that particularly in magical stories, or sci-fi, so often it's the disability of the character, the disfigurement of the character is not a real character trait. It's just the thing they have to overcome in order to become their full powerful self. And I remember seeing the character and being like, all right, she's going to get cured with magic and everything's going to be great. And this is going to be shitty, but this is the story that gets told all the time and I hate it and it's offensive, but fair enough. But then they show her like staying before she has her transformation, like she has sex with someone and looks damn hot as the person who has a body type that's very much not what we expect her to have.
I had a huge problem with that scene with all of those ghosts clapping as he climaxed. I just had to throw that in there. I was like, ugh. Okay,
yeah, the nature of which they're having sex is super problematic and shows all the brotherhood nonsense. And it's kind of funny, though, that they're both basically trying to spy on the other one.
Yeah.
But just the fact that, like, you saw someone with, like, a body that's very different than what you would expect, being sexual and being sexy. Like, I loved that. And then for them to throw all that away and be like, no, she wants to be hot so she can be her full magical self. It really bothered me, and it just hits so many of the tropes that I think are so ableist. But even more so, I kind of feel like if then later there is this sense of like, she hates the way that people treat her now, and that like, if all this stuff about her, what did I give up to be able to be this magical person that I'm not sure I want to be, was about that transformation, like that could be an interesting story.
I thought that's what I got from it.
Oh, so what I got is that they then threw in the reproductive part to focus on that, so it wasn't even as much about the. So now just the like, well, of course you wanted to be cured of your disability. That's fine. It's the losing your reproductiveness that.
No, I
that's
thought
the
it was
problem.
the conversation she had with the boyfriend at the end when she's like, "I wish we never left the cave." Like she knows
Right.
what she gave up, but it's also, you know, you have to look at it. I see what you're saying, but from like a woman's perspective, as someone who also doesn't want children, you know, you've just had this horrible life and somebody's putting this in front of you, like understanding what you want and paying the price for it is a choice that we all get to make for ourselves.
Oh,
you
for
know,
sure.
if someone asks, and it's like, I don't know, I can't see it as such a, like, I know that they do it all the time, but like if she had stayed herself, she wouldn't be the character she is now, which is why the retrospect on it is so important.
Yeah, I guess what I'm just saying is I feel like either make it she gives up her ability to have kids, or sorry, I hit my microphone, or have her go through this physical transformation that changes her into not being a disabled person or a disfigured person. It's doing both. To me, it kind of cheapened the disability part of it. And that's just where I was bothered. Because you're right. I mean, like,
And I thought that it being a curse as well was not her. She was cursed, kind of like the Striga. It wasn't something she was born with. It was cursed upon her.
Right, which then is like its own problematic, like, you know.
Disability is not a curse and shouldn't be, but that's a whole other thing. Yeah,
right. No, I totally see what both of you are saying, and I think I definitely felt like uncomfortable with it, you know. But then as it went on, I felt like they were kind of coming back to this idea of her questioning whether she should have done that. But I do agree that they kind of stepped on any questions about like how she changed her body, how she looks, by focusing on the reproductive aspect. And I think it would be very interesting. Like, I think it might be an interesting story if she does get the chance to like go back to who she was originally physically, right? And she, you know, she looks how she looked, and, you know, maybe she does get her reproductive system reinstated or whatever. You know,
that's what I like
that
about
choice.
that
I think would be an interesting choice as well, and then to see like how she feels about all of that, you know.
And just I just want to clarify for those who haven't seen it or don't remember, when we're talking about the reinstallation, it's because often in these kind of stories it's you've been cursed and now you're infertile. Like, no, she basically goes through a like very graphic, very traumatic hysterectomy.
Yeah, it's a hysterectomy.
Yeah.
We see her like
Very
uterus
graphic.
and float, like,
Yeah.
we see them removed.
The way that I kind of saw that is they're telling her she can't have her kids. They never, like, there's no one being like, well, you can't go back and look like you used to. And that's kind of like with me, if you tell me I can't do something, all I want to do is do it. Like, try and tell me I can't, I'll figure it out. So far, that's the thing that's the, you know, I know that the deformity was taken away from her, but that's the one thing that they're telling her she can't have. So that's why I feel like why she's so gung-ho on that.
Yeah, that could make sense. And I think it also, like, because she willingly gave it up.
Right.
But I think it gets to the idea of, like, that she gave it up when she'd not really been exposed to all the options. And, like, she'd been told that all that matters is your magic. And yeah, so I think that part of the story I would love just to be focused on. It's just the disability part of it. But I do think that's going to be a very interesting part of the story. And I think, I mean, I have to imagine it's not coincidence that we have her still trying to figure out what is her role and can she have a child at the same time that Geralt is basically becoming a father figure.
Yeah.
That's not
Yeah.
coincidence.
No.
That's my theory. I was like, so what I want is for them to just be like a happy family. And I just know that's not going to happen, but that's all I want. You know, he's got a dad, you know, they get together, she gets over her problem with the magic thing, and then they raise the most badass kid you've ever met. Like,
That's
all
how Dexter should have
powerful.
ended.
Oh my God. Dexter's been great, by the way.
And I will say, from playing a lot of the video game and from talking to people who read the books, my understanding is that that's kind of where the story goes for a while. That there's sort of a, like, he's raising her, and then it's kind of like, well, you know, mom, like, she's kind of, you know, the absentee mom, but she'll drop in every now and then and give a lot of gifts and make his life hell and then disappear, you know? So
God, I hope so. That sounds fun.
I feel like we just did this on the podcast with Hawkeye about a potential, you know, mentor, then a different mentor, and it's like the same triangle.
Exactly.
The same not love triangle.
Yeah. Let's not get into that just because I appreciate you not mentioning
I
it.
decided
watch
not
it. I
to
didn't
go
watch
for
it.
any
I didn't watch
spoilers.
it.
Yep.
Yeah,
Spoilers,
I have to
spoilers.
wait till Ken gets home.
It's a highly theoretical
conversation.
Yeah.
Anything more to say about Yennefer?
No.
I mean, she maybe blew herself up at the end, but probably didn't. Like, because
Yeah.
I assume she's in previews for season 2 already.
I don't think
like,
she did.
you
But
know.
I like that she was powerful enough to like save people while she was doing it. Like she has that control. She lets her chaos go.
Yeah.
And I was like, why have you been holding like? And that's where you start to question the like witches and stuff. Like, why are you holding everybody back?
Right. Yeah, I kind of want to see what a fully realized version of her is.
Right. Because one thing we'd seen in that battle was that the fire mages who Nilfgaard was forcing to use fire magic, which is thought of as like forbidden magic, I mean, it was literally burning them up. Like they were killing themselves to some of these fireballs. So clearly there's a sort of like, she's kind of, gone next level with this.
Enhanced fireball.
Exactly. Let's talk about Jaskier, the bard, because I really like this character, and Ashley, I get you did not. So, Paul, you split the difference. What'd you think of our bardic friend?
I mean, I can see him being annoying. I thought that was kind of the point a little bit.
They nailed it.
You know? But I thought... I enjoyed... Like, it's not like it was a bunch of songs that I would sit around listening to all the time. But I do appreciate there being, like, in-world music. You know, I think he's a character that really fills out the kind of, just the world and makes it feel very D&D.
Very D&D.
You know, like for real. But I liked the dynamic between him and Geralt, where like he's kind of like, oh yeah, we're pals, we're friends, and Geralt's like, go away. But like he's actually helpful to him as well.
Right.
But also gets him in trouble sometimes.
Everything bad that's happened or all this stuff, like he wouldn't have met Yennefer, it wasn't for him. So I can see how everything is kind of Jasker's fault.
Right.
Yeah.
But maybe meeting Yennefer's a good thing. We don't know.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Even if it didn't go great.
He's got a broken heart right now.
I definitely really like the character. I can see him being annoying. I also see a lot of myself in that character, so I want to think that he's not quite as annoying as other people think he is. I kind of also liked that he... Like, one of the things that the story is about is the difference between fact and the story, you know? And I like that there being this thing of, like, the public perception of what Geralt has done is so different, in part because Geralt never tells the stories. And, like, Jaskier, like, lies. He doesn't tell the story either.
He's a liar.
He tells a story.
Yeah, but he's kind of like Geralt's PR person. And I kind of like the idea that the world, like, in this world, you need that, even though Geralt hates it.
Yeah.
I also just find him very, like, I like the rakish kind of character. I like the kind of, like, he's such a nice, I thought he was such a nice counterpoint to Geralt that I really, I think just an episode about him would get really obnoxious, but the two of them together, I just love.
Yeah, I like their dynamic. And I also wouldn't necessarily want to watch a show just about him.
No.
Yeah, I think it's very fair. I think it's
They're
fair.
all separated now, right? He left him somewhere.
Yeah,
so we're going into 2 without him.
Yeah.
I think it's
They'll
possible.
show up.
Well, again, if nothing else, because he is human, so he's aged. Like, they actually at one point mentioned that, like, he looks like he has aged over this time in a way that Geralt does not.
Right.
So, but yeah. I definitely feel like, I think you're right. An episode of just him would be hard to take. I think an episode of just Geralt without some of that levity would be hard to take. I worry that the girl is going to become that levity now instead of Jaskier, which I'm just not going to like as much. But
Oh, I don't think she's going to become levity.
You're probably
No,
right.
She's an angry little girl.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So just a kind of fun character, and I do like the highly flirtatious dynamic between the two of them as well. Like, it's never been expressed, but like certainly the number of fan fictions that were written about those two is very strong, and I think there's a strong argument you can set for.
I don't
that
think
dynamic.
so. Not when Yennefer's there. He's in love with Yennefer. Like, you can't make something there that's not there. I don't see that at all.
I mean, she was like, they were together for a long time before Yennefer, and I certainly think that something could have happened beforehand. But
I did not perceive such.
Set that at all.
It feels to me like, wishful thinking. But, hey,
That's fair.
people
Yeah.
can wish for whatever,
Yeah.
No judgment, just don't see it.
I didn't see it either.
I think there's definitely a lot of queer flirtation between the two of them, but yeah, I can also see it not. What I think those are kind of the main characters we wanted to talk about. Is there any other kind of big things we wanted to touch on before we start wrapping up?
Well, we were gonna talk about what's her name, right? But my response was gonna be like, I have nothing to add.
Cirilla, yeah.
Yeah.
Like
They keep calling her Siri, right?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
I like
That's good. Do you think people are going to sit there with their phone on and like it's going
Mine
to be
would
like
go,
Siri?
It would
You'll be like,
happen during mine, and when people
Really?
say Alexa on TV, my Alexa goes off. Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, I feel like the story they were telling around her of like the, you know, her having this view of the elves and the dryads and thinking, and like her, you know, through her we learned so much more about the oppression, and that the kingdom she thinks was great was actually this like kind of pretty horrible supremacist kingdom.
Yeah.
But like, again, the story of like, we're going to learn about white supremacy by telling you a story of a white person who, oh no, has to learn that her people did terrible things. Like, just tell us a story about the elves and the dryads. Like, I felt like she was there to be this, like, we're going to learn that her people are terrible, but she wants to have a good heart. I just, especially because everyone around her was so interesting. Like, I remember, like, she starts with, like, a soldier who has to guard her, and, like, I was like, this is going to be a really fun dynamic. Oh, no, he's dead. Oh,
Right,
Mousak.
right.
Mousak is a really cool character.
Yeah,
oh, no,
yeah,
he's
yeah.
dead.
He's
Yeah,
dead.
I was more interested in Mousak than
Yeah.
Cirilla. I think it would be interesting if she doesn't like become a hero or a positive character. Like,
Yeah,
what
so
if
that-
she decides, no, my people were right, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and these people have done bad things to us, and so I'm gonna, you know, go all scorched earth on them. Like, I feel like there's a lot of ways that the character could become interesting.
Yeah.
And I feel like at the end of season 1, the character began to become interesting. But, like, we're not there yet. And so season 2 will either be and like eye-rolly and boring or whatever, or, like, maybe there's some interesting places to go with it. I don't know.
Yeah.
I
guess
don't
we'll see.
remember how she knew about Yennefer. Siri.
Oh. Does she know about Yennefer?
At the end, when they hug, she's like, who's Yennefer?
She's been dreaming about him.
Okay.
If I remember, I think there was like moments when he was dreaming
yeah,
about
yeah.
Yennefer, and she like had like a connection to it or something like that.
Right.
And
Magic.
Yeah.
Flourish.
Flourish.
Who knows?
I wonder what kind of dream she popped in on. Ugh.
Oh God.
That's why she thinks, Mommy?
Oh boy. Reminds me, we have some After Dark episodes we need to get to, but
Good.
very much so. All right, I think then that's a pretty good place to wrap up. You know, a lot about the show that is really interesting, a lot that we have some raised eyebrows about, but I'm certainly feeling excited about season 2 coming out soon.
Me too.
Sure. I mean, I'll either enjoy it or I'll have something to complain about. So either way, it's a
way, it's
win.
fun,
Either
yeah.
way, it's
There you
fun.
go. I figure we'll get you on the podcast. We'll figure out a way to back.
Yeah,
All right, well,
I'll come through
You're doing
sometime.
yeah. Well, for folks who want to catch up on what both of you are doing, Ashley, I know you're all over the MCU cast these days. Where can people find you?
You can find me at the MCU Cast, Marvel Cinematic Universe podcast over on Bingers. We've been covering a lot of stuff. We're about to cover all the Spider-Man movies. I'm going to do the Raimi ones, and they're going to do those other atrocities. I mean, the Amazing Spider-Man's without me. In our
Nice.
preparation for Spider-Man, which is in
Garfield,
like 9 days.
Garfield.
Garfunkel.
Paul Simon. Oh.
Yeah.
And Heathcliff.
And then here on Pandavision. And then we have Star Wars coming up real soon.
Yep. Paul, what about yourself?
Yeah, Zen Madman on Twitter. Right now, I'm just like icing myself. So eventually, I'll start making some
Did you get
content
the Epsom
again.
salt like I told you to?
I didn't. I went into the store and they had like 20 people online. And I was like, I was just at the DMV. I'm not waiting on another line.
Order it on Amazon. It'll have it here by 6.
Oh, that's true.
There you go.
Amazon now. Okay.
Amazon forever. Amazon is terrifying.
That was a
Oh,
Ronnie
no,
Chang
Amazon.
reference, by the way. It wasn't an endorsement of.
Okay, there you go.
And then I'll probably be around for Book of Boba Tea. I mean, Book of Boba Fett.
Booker T.
I like it.
Boba Tea.
That's a whole
Bubble
different
tea.
show. Oh, bubble tea.
Yeah.
All right, yeah, and for folks who want to find more of my stuff, I'm on Superhero Ethics and the Star Wars Universe podcast. You can find all my podcasting stuff at The Ethical Panda, theethicalpanda.com, but also Twitter, places like that. Love to hear your feedback on this. You can find us on, if you go to strandedpanda.com, you'll find all the way to give feedback about this and the upcoming coverage we're going to do on The Witcher. As Paul and Ashley mentioned, on Star Wars, we're going to be doing coverage of the Book of Boba Fett. A lot of other great stuff coming up. And I'll just say for people who are interested in more of the kind of podcasts I do, I'm in the midst of... did I say something about the survey at the beginning of this episode?
Nope.
Okay.
Survey.
And of course, for people who are interested more of my stuff, it's all on theethicalpanda.com. And I'm currently in the midst of trying to do like a year-end survey. Just get a sense from fans of like what kind of content do they like? What do they want to see more of? What do they maybe not want to see quite as much of? Paul, I have been told that we should stop Zack Snyder bashing quite as much. That might not be a fulfillable objective. Not sure if it's possible, but we can see what happens.
As it becomes less and less relevant, maybe.
Yeah,
but...
there you go. But yeah, definitely fill out that survey. Let me know what you think. It can be critical. It can be positive. Really interested to know more what you think and help kind of shape where the podcasts are going to go for 2022. So thank you all so much. On behalf of myself, Ashley, Paul, thank you for listening. Have a great day.
Bye. Meh.
Fuck.
What?
Fuck. Geralt of Rivia.
Thank you for listening to Pandavision. We are a member of the Stranded Panda Network. For all of our podcasts and other creative geeky projects, check out strandedpanda.com.